All right, who do we got now next for the Bob Tuskin 9/11 10th anniversary special? Let's see here. Is that Popeye from FederalJack.com on the line?
What's up, Bob?
Hey, Popeye, how are you?
What's up, buddy?
Well, let's talk 9/11. You were a first responder.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to that dreadful day, and then let's move forward. Let's talk about solutions at some point.
Okay, well, juxtaposition between now and then, I remember what the world was like before 9/11, and 10 years later, I see a complete change in this country. Even the people are different. You know, it's not the same anymore. And it kills me. It really hurts my heart, because I'm a little older than a lot of people in the truth community. I know there's older folks, but I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm kind of straddling the line between the older ones and the younger ones. And there's a whole generation of people that doesn't remember what it's like to not have a police state. And that's scary, because I remember when there was carefree, there wasn't this, you know, cops when you drove down the street, you didn't worry about getting pulled over, tased and beaten and treated like a homeland terrorist or homegrown terrorist, whatever they call it. You know, it wasn't like that. You know, cops were, I mean, there was still some militarization going on, and of course that was the creeping part. But it was not like it is today. You know, fast forward 10 years, it's incredible. Look at these local police departments, Bob. They're not police departments anymore. It doesn't even say to protect and serve on the cop cars anymore. I remember when it used to say that.
No.
I remember when police agencies had individuality. Each unit, each agency's police cars would be multicolored. Firefighters were the same way. A lot of different fire trucks were the same colors and stuff. Well, police were the same way. They had, you know, different looking cars, different colors. After 9/11, there was this big push by the feds to get cops to go back to the old black and whites.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes you wonder why.
Well, it's talked about in Mark Pancio's presentation.
Exactly. See how it's all linked together?
Yeah, by the way, he's coming on next hour, and he's also coming on Popeye's show Friday night, folks. Check it out, Popeye. Real quick plug for your show, and then let's jump right back into it.
Yeah, down the rabbit hole, Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays, and during the week it's on 10 to 11, going to 10 to 12 next week. Anyway, let's talk about 9/11.
Yeah, let's talk about being a first responder on that dreadful day. What happened?
Well, I remember I was watching the news. I was recording it, in fact. I still have a video file that I took off the old VHS tapes, put it on DVD, and then I put it on a hard drive for safekeeping. But I was standing there watching it. I remember seeing an aerial shot with all of the FDNY around the base of the towers. And I said, man, and I don't know what made me think this. I just said, man, that would be a real bad place to be standing if those towers came down. And no sooner did I say it than the first tower went. And I was just standing there, and my mother, I remember her having a conniption fit. Now, this is a woman whose husband, her brother-in-law, both her sons were firemen. So, you know, she was used to firefighting for almost 30 years. And I could hear her in the kitchen going, I mean, she was literally having a panic attack watching this, and she couldn't believe it. And she looked at me, and I said to her, all those guys are dead. I already knew it. I grabbed my gear, I threw it in my pickup truck, called a friend of mine up, picked him up from work. He told his boss he was leaving. He grabbed his gear. We went down to the firehouse. I was a volunteer firefighter. They said to us, we're staying here to cover the town and a couple other towns because there were so many towns going to help out that they were leaving their towns with no crew and no protection. So the department I was on was covering a couple towns. So I took my own personal gear, and I went down to Giant Stadium, which is where they were staging us. And as I've told you the story later on, at the command center is where I heard them arrest the van full of Middle Eastern men, which later came back, they were Israeli, the ones with all the C-4 by the George Washington Bridge. That's where I heard that, was at the command center.
You actually heard that firsthand?
Oh, yeah, I was standing by the radio. I could tell you right now, I remember to this day, Bob, I was standing, they had this little tent set up with all the radios on the table. And the radios were on the right-hand side, stacked up. They were 3 high. I'm actually shaking remembering this because they're bringing the adrenaline back. They were stacked 3 high, and I remember the operator sitting there, state police operator sitting there operating it, and they had arrested, it was a state police officer that had pulled him over, right over the GW Bridge. And at first they came back, they were Middle Eastern men, and we were like, we got some, you know, we're gonna make them pay. And they came back a couple minutes later that they were Israeli, and we were like, well, we don't care, you know. At that point, you're all from the Middle East. So there wasn't like, oh, it's cool, don't worry about it. No. That's not how it went down. But those guys eventually ended up weaseling their way out of it, of course. I never really thought too much about it afterwards. I didn't agree with going into Iraq based on the lie, you know, once I was in the military. I had some objections, but I can tell you my other personal thought for the day, and from that day was, if my mother were still alive, she'd be able to tell you this. They were talking about on the local radio stations. As I've said before, you always got to listen to local media. And I remember they were talking about that they shot 93 out of the sky and that they were tailing it. And the official story says they didn't get any planes into the air till after it crashed. But I remember the local radio stations talking about there's an F-16 behind, there's at least one F-16 trailing it, blah, 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 blah. I mean, we always thought that they just lied about it because they didn't want to upset people. But a lot of local people in northern New Jersey, even from day one, thought that they at the very least, blew 93 out of the sky and that it didn't crash the way they said. Mm-hmm. So there was always a little bit of doubt, even from the beginning.
Yeah, well, there's so many different aspects of the story that we can talk about, and we've done it on full programs in the past. We've talked about Hurricane Aaron, which is an extremely interesting case, and you should go to Popeye's YouTube channel and check that out, TheRealJack.com. But Popeye, where are we going from here? Are we going to ever see justice for the largest crime in our lifetimes?
If I have anything to say about it, we will. I'm going to keep pushing for justice until I have no breath in my lungs.
Yeah. A lot of us feel that way.
That day, I don't know how to describe the feeling as somebody who rescues people and had done so for so many years. I had pulled people out of house fires, car accidents, and it took me years to get over the guilt because I had this emotional, I don't know how to say it, kind of like...
well, you feel like you should have done more. You said, you know...
Not even that you should have, that I could have. I should have known. I could have gotten down there faster.
Yeah, they call it survivor's guilt.
That's what it's called.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what it was called.
We both came up with that at the same time. Survivor's guilt. And
it took me years to get over that, Bob. Years.
Yeah, I bet.
I held myself accountable. You know, I said that I should have, you know, God, maybe if I just wasn't, you know, if we weren't, you know, screwing around so much and chasing girls or, you know, busy, you know, if we were just on point more, you know, just like they said, well, we have the pre-9/11 mentality and the post-9/11 mentality. And we bought into that conditioning and all that crap back then. I got to tell you, I couldn't look, once I looked into 9/11, I woke right up. But it took me years to even be able to look into it because I couldn't watch those towers come down. After a couple weeks of, you know, doing my thing and helping out the Red Cross, I couldn't look at the pictures or images anymore. It really bugged me out because it would make me feel guilty. It made me feel like I didn't do enough.
Popeye, you have done enough and you continue to do enough. And we thank you for all that you're doing. Thanks so much for coming on our 9/11 special this week. It wouldn't be one without you.
Thanks for having me on, Bob. Always a pleasure.